Welcome back to my hometown. A young man graduated from Bowie High School in 1993, and just 3 years later he began on patrol for the Bowie Police Department. Over the years he worked up the ranks of the Bowie PD, and since 2014 has been the police chief. Please welcome my guest today, Police Chief Guy Green. Thank you, Guy, for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So you're Bowie High School graduate.
That's correct.
Yeah, 93.
93.
After high school, you went to Midwestern for a little bit, is that correct?
I did. I attended Midwestern State University for about 3 years, and was taking criminal justice classes because I wanted to be in law enforcement, and then somewhere along in there, I think I read in the Bowie News that the police department had an opening, and they were testing. So I applied, went through all the testing process, and it was a big. There was like 30, 40 people involved, and they were hiring
applicants.
Yes. I mean, back then, everybody was, I guess looking for a job or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, 30 or 40 different people from all over the place. We took a test, did physical agility, all that kind of stuff. They hired 2 full-time people, and they hired me, but they sent me to the academy, paid for me to go to the academy, but they hired me as a reserve. They hired the other 2 ahead of me, put them. So one of them was full-time, and one of them went to the academy with me. So we went to the academy and kind of been here ever since.
So you always wanted to be a police officer?
As far as back as I can remember, I played with Matchbox cars. I wanted to be the police car, just always. My dad was a volunteer fireman at the Bowie Fire Department, and so I went with him every time I got an opportunity to go on a call with him. I'd go and watch. See all the lights and see all the excitement going on, and go to the fire station. Back then it was in the armory, and we'd hang out. All the firemen's kids hung out up there and played on all the old equipment and stuff, and just my dad's really good friend back then was Larry Duncan. He worked here. He was an officer, became the chief. His wife babysat me before I started school, so I was around him and the firemen, and it just got my blood.
Just you always wanted to be. So did you go to Midwestern to get a degree and then pursue?
Well, to be honest with you, I had applied places, and they said, "Hey, you're not old enough." I applied to the sheriff's office at Montague. You're not old enough. So I went to Midwestern to get my criminal justice degree, waiting to turn 21.
So you have to be 21.
Got to be 21.
And that's still the same way now?
Right.
Yeah.
So when the opportunity came, I jumped ship, and I was blessed to be offered an opportunity for the city to pay for my academy, gave me a vehicle to drive. I didn't get a salary, but I got a vehicle to drive.
Like back and forth to
I drove back and forth to Fort Worth, Monday through Friday, every day. And when I graduated the academy, the other 2 guys were full-time. They put me on for 2 weeks as a reserve. And I was going through the FTO program, and Art Ferguson was one of the patrol sergeants. And he was in the Army Reserves, I believe. And he got called to active duty, sent him to Germany. And I slid right into 2 weeks. I slid into a full-time slot, and he was deployed for a while. I can't remember how long. And while he was gone, the city added a patrol position in the budget, and I never had to go back to reserve. I've been full-time ever since.
Ever since then. So that was 96?
96. June of 96, I went full-time.
And then
and here I am.
ever since.
Still here.
Almost 30 years, 27 years?
27 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how long were you on patrol?
I was on patrol for 5 years, until 2001, and David Perry was one of our investigators, and he left to go to a different department, and I think we tested, I can't remember the process at that point, but Lieutenant Wallace, working with him, he picked me, went through rotation. I went into a detective's position, and I did a detective, and I taught DARE at the intermediate school. Well, several different schools, but for 5th grade. So I did that for almost 10 years, I think.
As detective and teaching DARE, and do they still have DARE at the school?
We don't do DARE anymore. It's kind of gotten obsolete, and there's other things. And now that we have, that whole process has completely changed. We didn't have an SRO. It was me. There were several different DARE officers before me, but I was the last one that was not an SRO. And we did that, and then Bob Blackburn was our very first SRO, and he was the DARE officer. Well, now we have 4 SROs. So now there's an SRO at each campus at the school, and they all do a different program. Shorter, that's, to me, we're covering more grades instead of just doing 5th. We're covering every campus.
So an SRO is,
A school resource officer,
and so they're on campus the whole time during the school day.
the whole time. Right.
So what do they do at the school? Do they, I mean, besides some education, they just,
Their primary duty is to keep the people in the building safe, protect the students, protect the staff, visitors, safety, security of that particular campus, and then the rest of the time they work like Bob Blackburn is in charge of the SRO program, and he works at the campus that has the administration building with Mr. Enlow and his staff, and he works very closely with him to do planning, keep up to date with the latest and greatest security things that the governor's office puts out, the Texas safety program puts out. So he spends a lot of his time training, preparing, writing new policies, making sure the doors are secured, making sure that everything in the school is compliant with the state, and to make sure that everybody is safe. The other 3 are at each one of their respective campuses, but their primary duty is keep it safe, and then they do some, like Officer Berryman's at the high school, he teaches some criminal justice classes there to high school students as elective. Officer Majors is at the elementary school, and he does a lot of different things. He'll do everything from bicycle safety to stranger danger to drugs to all kinds of stuff. Officer Hudson's at the junior high. He does a lot of different things with drug safety, or awareness, and just you name it.
so the program since Bob Blackburn did has grown when he was the only one initially at all the campuses.
Right. He was the only one for the entire district for several years. Several years. And then I believe 2 or 3 years ago, the school district approached us and said, hey, we'd like to have a second SRO. So one thing I will say about Bowie ISD, they have been very proactive and ahead of the curve on school safety, in my opinion.
So that's not the police department coming to the school and saying, hey, we're going to add.
That's the school coming to the city saying, we want to add another SRO. We see the way things are done across the state. We see the dangers that are out there. We want to get ahead of that. We want to keep our students and staff as safe as possible and do whatever we can. So we got permission from the city, permission from the school board, added the second one, and then they split 2 campuses each. And that worked really well. And then we had the horrible things in South Texas at schools, and the world's getting crazier, as everybody knows. And again, Mr. Enlow says, hey, I really would feel better to have one officer at every campus. His thing to me was, how do I tell 2 campuses they don't get one? How do you do that? Who decides who's more important? You can't. That's not what he goes. So we talked. He and I met, discussed, talked to Bob, do all this. Bob was not in there at that time. Bob was up here as a detective. He worked narcotics for the last several years, and so we come up with a plan. Talked to the school board, talked to the city, talked to city manager. Then we took it to the council, mayor, all that good stuff. And everybody was great. Everybody was on board, absolutely. So now we have one at each campus. And I really think we're ahead in this part of Texas for a school our size. We've had people, I have been told, have called and said, hey, how'd you get that done? We're going to try to do that. So we were actually ahead of the game, I think, on this.
Yeah, I didn't know there was, I thought there was just one I just see the same one, but I'm usually at the administration building, and when we do the shack committee for health, and so I didn't know that. Yeah. So how does that cost shared? Is it a shared cost?
It is a shared cost, yes, sir. The city, they are city employees. All 4 of them are city employees. They get paid just like every other officer in the department. And then the city will bill the school district, I believe, twice a year for, and don't quote me exactly on this, but I think it's the school pays 80% of it, or 75 or 80% of their salary, because they're spending 75, 80% of their time at the school. So they'll bill the school will write a check twice to the city throughout the year, 2 times a year, and then it goes back into to cover that cost. And then in the summer, school holidays, they're here working for the city. Obviously, we can use them in a pinch, in an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
We can pull them very temporarily, on weekends or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And then the way we are set up right now is Officer Blackburn. The agreement that we have with the school is that he will remain at the school all year long.
Mm-hmm.
So even in the
So even the
summertime,
summertime.
even the summertime, he's going to be at the school. There's things going on all summer. There's summer school. There's
Mm-hmm.
administrations in the buildings. There's things going on. So his job is school all year long. The
Mhm.
other three come back to the city, and then we get to use them, fill them in for vacations on patrol. A lot of times we'll put in some special assignment things, do some narcotics interdiction, and
Mm-hmm.
just things that will benefit the city.
Mm-hmm.
So it works really well.
So you talk about detective and different things. How many different positions are there in the police department? Like there's patrol, there's detective, there's narcotics.
Well, so the way the police department's currently set up, we have 3 reserve officers that will help fill in different places. We have 9 patrol. We're allowed to have 9.
Mm-hmm.
We're not currently full right this minute. We have 1 guy in the academy, and we've got 1 guy coming.
There's not
So-
40 applicants ready to
No,
start.
no,
It's
there's not.
changed.
It's drastically changed from over the years. But there's 9 uniformed patrol officers
Mhm.
that patrol the streets. We have 2 detectives that work. Right now they're covering patrol too on the
Uh-huh.
weekends, so it impedes us a little bit, but we make it work. We have 2 detectives, and then we have a captain who also works cases, but he handles all of our property evidence, sex offender, keeping up with sex offenders, all the videos, a lot of administrative stuff, but he does a lot of cases, so he kind of splits his time. And then, of course, then there's my position, and then we have 5 communications officers and
Which
1 animal
is-
control officer.
The communications officers is
Well, most people call them a dispatcher.
dispatch. Yeah.
We call them communications officers. Either one's
Mhm.
appropriate. They man the 911 call center, basically, which is here in the police department. There is 1 to 2 on duty 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're there to answer your phone calls, answer 911, dispatch police, fire, and EMS,
Mm-hmm.
and animal control.
Mm-hmm.
And at times they dispatch DPS, game wardens, stuff like that,
So it's whoever's needed is.
whatever is
Hey.
needed. And when the police department is tasked with, when the city is closed after 5 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
then we're the call center.
Mhm.
We're your water, you have a leak, your electricity goes out, we get all those calls.
All those calls after 5 o'clock.
After
when the city's
hours.
closed.
We're the phone number to call for after hours service.
Uh-huh.
So,
And then they direct it
right,
where it needs to go.
whoever's on call, they call them out or notify the appropriate person.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And so, 27 years, it's a long time to be in the police department, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes.
mhm.
So what are some of the biggest changes that you've seen, whether it's with citizens, with our community? I'm sure different things you maybe respond to or have changed over the years.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And maybe too, I think people would want to know, well, how safe is our city? Because as a citizen, I think we see different parts. There's parts that go on in our city that I never see,
Right.
And
it's all in the perception of the person, depending on their experience with things.
Mhm.
So, I try to be realistic, and I try to look at the big picture. And I personally believe the city's very safe.
Mhm.
You look at some other towns, obviously big cities in the Metroplex, and there's all kinds of things going on. And I always tell people, they say, well, Bowie's, you work in a small town because it's not dangerous. Well,
Mhm.
that's not true. Anything that happens in a big town can and will happen here. It's just not as often.
Mhm.
It's fewer and far between, but it doesn't mean it can't. We had a deputy, Monte County deputy, that was shot out here on the highway. So
Mhm.
thank the good Lord he survived. But I'm saying it's just as dangerous here as anybody else. It's just not as often.
Mhm.
So I say the city's very safe. We don't have a lot of the crimes on a day-to-day basis that a lot of places do. We are very fortunate that the city has allowed us to have the amount of officers that we have,
Mhm.
the equipment that we have, the training that they budget for us to do. I think we're doing really well with the resources that we're given,
Mhm.
and I think we make a valiant effort to put a dent in the crime.
Mhm.
There's always going to be crime.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, you can't make it go away completely.
Just because you have a community of 5,000 plus people. So.
5,000 people. Anytime there's people involved, there's going to be something happening. Not everybody plays by the rules. Not everybody has the same values as everybody else. So you're going to have things go on, but I feel like we have a really good group of people that are working here, and I think they all care and they all do their part. So I think it's a safe place to. It's where I've chosen to. I was born and raised, and I chose to stay to raise my family, and most of my family all lives here. So I'm happy with that. I don't worry about something happening to them. So.
They're being safe. And do you find that the officers that come to work here, are they from different areas and move here, or are some of them from here?
Some of them are from here. We have officers that grew up, work here. We have officers that are from smaller towns that come here to work. We've had officers drive here from Wichita Falls to work, but they don't usually stay a long time. They get experience. We've always been, even prior to me working here, this department has been really a training ground. You come here, you get a lot of experience. It's a busy town. Now, we got kind of back to what we were talking about a while ago. On the surface, it looks nice and quiet.
Right.
But there are things going on all the time. They're not huge major things, but there are things going on in the dark and in the night and on the side streets that people don't see that we try to squash and we try to take care of. So there's a lot of experience that an officer can get here working with different crimes and different things that go on. So they get a lot of experience here, and then they go somewhere else that pays better.
So is that a challenge, that it is kind of a training ground that they get experience and then move on? Does that make it a challenge to, I mean, it just has to be a challenge, I would think.
It's always a challenge. I know the fire department has the same problem. You know, you hire somebody and you think, all right, this is a good person, and you spend a lot of money getting them trained, and you spend a lot of money getting them uniforms and all that stuff, and they a couple of years, and they want to go either back to where they're from or somewhere where the dollars are at, a little bit bigger. And the pay's not horrible here. I'm not saying that, but obviously other towns that are bigger have more tax money to go around, or more industry or sales or whatever. They can afford that. I think this city does really good for what we can afford. I mean, I'm not complaining at all. You always want to, and you could raise it exponentially, and somebody's still going to go somewhere else. You can't always, fight that, but we do what we can.
And so you just get used to those challenges, and you work with them, and you roll with them, and you know that that's a possibility with anybody that moves up in the ranks.
If you can get a whole year, lately in the last 5 years or so, we might go 3 or 4 years and not have turnover at all. Thinking this is amazing, Now, 6 months, year, if you went and everybody's fully staffed, great. We haven't been fully staffed, well, somewhere since right around the COVID, all that stuff, and kind of afterwards, it's, we've had people come. We've been fortunate to get some more people, but it's a challenge. It's been more of a challenge than I've ever seen here.
So what do you see one of the biggest issues in our community being, as in, law enforcement or an area that is just challenging?
Well, the biggest challenge that I've seen since I've been here is drugs. I mean, it's a nonstop battle. You're constantly trying to rid the town of that, get that out of here, and somebody new will show up, or they're out, they've done their time, and they're back out, and they start back. When I first started, it was meth labs, Nazi. They called them Nazi.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. There's a lot of, but is there still that many?
We don't see a whole lot of that anymore. There's still meth. Obviously, there's still meth, but they're not cooking it like they did just in every little place around. They bring it in now. It's cheaper to get it from Mexico through the border. That's a huge problem, and it comes all the way up here and keeps going. So. And there's a lot of pills, a lot of opioid issues. That's probably the biggest issue right now. I would think is prescription drugs.
And so do citizens call in? Do they, or is it just tips you get, or patrolling, or knowing the individuals?
A little bit of all that.
Keeping an eye on them?
We'll make some traffic stops, and you develop probable cause to see something, or somebody's acting a certain way, and you either are arresting them for something else and you find it, or you have probable cause search vehicle and you find something. Or sometimes people call. Sometimes it's a medical call. And so then we show up because they're, overdose or something like that, and we're involved at that point. So,
And so that brings us to a point, since you've been here 27 years, you're born and raised, grew up here.
right.
So I'm sure there's probably individuals that you've known that get involved in that stuff, in drugs or traffic stops or other issues. And do they find it like, oh, he's gonna take care of me, he's gonna, want special treatment, and even not major things, but maybe like it's just traffic stops. Is that a challenge just of people's expectations?
Sometimes it is. When I first started, when I was first on patrol, I actually stopped a guy that I went to school with, and he was like, "God, it's me," and I'm like, "Hey, sorry, you were doing whatever, I don't remember what it was. You were doing whatever," and he got mad because I didn't cut him a break, but I think it was speeding or something. It wasn't just a minor. And I wrote him a ticket, and I said, I'm sorry, I have a job to do. City expects me to do, perform my duties, treat everybody the same. And of course, you have a little bit of officer, leeway on discretion on what you want to do. But I was trained. You set what your limit is, or where you write a ticket, and you stick with it. So that's what I tried to do. I tried to be the same way with everybody. So, and I have a little bit of that. But once I kind of got made it like it's not personal, I'm just doing my job, it got better. Then when I was a detective, I had a few cases where they're like, "You're really going to get a warrant for me? You're going to put me in jail?" "Yeah, but I know you. It's not personal. I'm just doing my job." So you had a little bit of that, not bad. I've actually had more of it as chief than any other time. You get phone calls. People call, "Hey, I got a ticket." "Okay. Well, I don't think it's fair. They're picking on me or what." I'll go back and watch the video, body cam, because I'm going to make sure. I don't just automatically think the officer's always right. I look at the video, and sometimes the officer's wrong. And we discuss it, and we move on, and we get better. But a lot of times, they're just upset because they're getting us pulled over and getting a ticket. And I tell everybody, and this was this way before, I can't take credit for this, is this way before I got here. We treat everybody the same. Doesn't matter. I'm sorry. Just because you own a business or you're so-and-so makes no difference. So that's one thing I've tried to continue to make sure everybody's treated the same. Just because you own a business shouldn't mean you can drive faster than somebody that doesn't. So we just try to be equal with everybody.
Yeah, and I think that's important that people understand that it is equal.
It is.
I mean, you don't get special treatment.
Right.
Nor expect it.
Right. But there are people that expect it.
Yes.
And some people will get really upset and say, "Hey, this happened," and I'll watch the video, and I invite them to come up here and watch the body cam video or patrol car video, and they go, "Wow, I did run a stop sign. I didn't realize," but you don't remember it. And it works out. We usually always end on a good note. Nobody's mad. I just try to be transparent. Here it is. You watch it and tell me it's been okay.
So what can citizens do, officers on patrol, watching to keep drugs out and to keep our community safe, but what can citizens do to help keep our community safe?
Well, I would say be vigilant. Just be watchful. Pay attention to things that are different. Something doesn't look right, it's probably not. And I will say this. I believe there are people live in neighborhoods and they think, okay, this doesn't look right, and they call. We want you to call. Call the police department. We can't always just go over and just kick the door in and drag the people out. There's laws. They have rights. So sometimes I think they get discouraged because they call and the officer drives over and looks, and it's not something that by law we can actually address right then, and they get discouraged and think, well, they didn't do anything. Well, we have things we have to abide by. There's rules. We have to treat everybody fair. We can't just take what you say without corroborating, evidence to prove. So sometimes it may take more than one call. If you think this house down the street's selling drugs, well, I can't just, take them to jail because you're probably right.
Yeah.
More than likely you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying we have to build the case. And so my thing is don't give up. Write down tag numbers. Give them to us. If you can get a video, if you have a camera system on your door and you're seeing these cars there for short distances, times, and you feel like don't just call once and give up. Please help us. Come talk to us. it's a process that we have to go through.
Mm-hmm. You just can't go in there and cuff them and.
We just go in there and cuff them, take them to jail. It's going to get dismissed, and that didn't help anybody.
Uh-huh.
And we want to do things right. We want to do things by the law. We want to be accurate and lawful. So be observant, document it, and let us know. And try not to get frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep working on it.
And just
keep letting us.
And do you find that as a whole, the officers patrolling are treated with respect and?
Oh yeah, people get upset, and I tell the guys, hey, don't take it personal. You get pulled over, you get a ticket, you're not happy either. I get pulled over and get a ticket, I'm not happy, but we try not to take that personal because next day people are over it, they're fine usually, and they didn't mean to get upset, they're just upset. That's understandable. But boy, I will say one thing, that countywide, and I've been here 27 years, and there's been things where a department does something and it upsets somebody and they get on Facebook and they just really blast you on it. We have been so blessed to have people support us. They get on there and they'll say, no, you didn't do this right. And all of a sudden they start bringing us cookies, and it's amazing the support we get in this town and the whole county. I've seen it happen in Nocona, Montague, the support they get. But all I know is Bowie, and for sure, and people really support us, and it really makes you feel better about doing your job when you know the town has your back. They're not just going to flip on you and throw you under the bus. They want us to do our jobs. They want us to do it right, and they really support us. And the city supports us.
Yeah, and I want to commend you and officers. I was tagged on Facebook maybe a couple weeks ago. We had a couple officers that I think actually First Baptist Church, maybe one of the churches was having an overnight lock-in.
Right.
Yeah, I think it was First Baptist, right across the street. And a couple officers stopped by, played basketball, with the kids.
3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, and I thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. That because I think sometimes we forget that there are people behind the uniforms. There are people that have families that care. That it's not just out to make your day bad.
Right.
And so I thought that was great that they took the time to.
Yeah. I agree, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff goes on, but it's not always documented, so people don't know about it. And I have noticed these officers at this department aren't going to raise their hand and go, "Guess what I did?" They're going to do it and move on. They're not asking for recognition. They don't want recognition. They get embarrassed when I do try to recognize them for something. But there's a lot of that going on behind the scenes that people don't know about.
And I think that's what makes a community that supports the officers. And then the officers, when they know they're supported, that community knows they're supported, and officers are getting involved in different ways, then I think the community responds and goes, wow, they really care about us. It's more than just driving up and down the street.
Right.
Looking for somebody doing drugs or going too fast.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, we do have to enforce traffic laws. We don't want people just driving crazy, people getting hurt and getting run over. But there's a lot of other things that we do that just don't draw the attention, that are equally as important.
And there's a lot of things that do keep our community safe that none of us citizens ever see.
Right.
I think that go on, like you said, that goes on and we just don't see it.
But that's not just us.
Yeah.
That's the community, people that live in it. We really have a good small town. I love a small town. Never lived in another town, but I'll go to them. I'm ready to get back. We have good citizens in this town, and so it takes the police and the citizens. I know that sounds cliche here, but it's true.
Yeah.
It takes the citizens and the police together and everybody else in the community to make this place safe and a good place you want to be.
And I think when as our community grows and people move in, I think they get that sense of feeling that is safe, and they want to be part of that.
Right.
And they want to help keep it safe.
Right.
And so you've never moved out. You've always lived here.
I've lived here my whole life.
So your kiddos, what would you encourage them to do? Would you encourage them to stay in Bowie or move away and then come back?
My kids? Well, my wife would say they need to go out and see other things, and if they want to come back, great. I'm a little more, I'd rather you stay here because I'm selfish. I want to see them.
Yeah.
But, and I think you grow up in a town, just like you. You're here making a difference. You do this and all the other things that you do that everybody sees, you're making an impact on this town. You're not working in Dallas. You're not. They can
Right.
do that. They can come back here. And my oldest daughter wants to be a school teacher. She's going to Midwestern to be a school teacher. She can do that here, hopefully,
Yeah.
and be an impact. Be an impact on the community, impact on the students, the next generation. My youngest one, I'm not exactly sure. She kind of medical stuff maybe, but still, I mean, there's things that people can do right here. It's not all money makes the world. It pays for the bills, but it's not everything.
Yeah.
So that's just, I'm selfish. I want them here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, we've encouraged our kids to, you know, if you want to move away, go try it out, because we're confident that you'll come back and realize what. And sometimes I don't think our kiddos can appreciate the specialty and how special our community is, because
Right.
that's what they're always used to.
That's true. That's
You know?
you're very true.
And when they come back, they go, man, I didn't realize that this is what it was like.
Right.
And I think sometimes we just take it for granted, because that's just the way it is.
Right.
And our kids grow up like that, and they just take it for granted because, you know, Dad's always been a policeman and taking care of us, and our town's just safe.
Yeah.
And we're very fortunate because not every place is like that.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things about our town, Bowie, that makes it so special, is that the people and the community, everybody in the community, all parts, whether it's city, whether it's citizens, working together just to make it better, because they do call it home.
Right.
So
And every part of that is important.
there's not one single thing that, oh, this is what makes it.
Right. No.
It's the little pieces.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, and there's people. I've been out of school for a long time, as you know.
Yeah.
We've been out of school a long
Yeah.
time, and there are some people that I graduated high school with, and they moved out of state. Hadn't seen them in 20 years, and they come back. They're like, you know, I got tired of it. I got tired of the big city. I want to come back and make this, and they're here making a difference. And some like me that never left, and they're here making a difference. So,
Yeah, I mean, still making a difference.
right, right.
Yeah.
It takes everybody.
So what do you find the special about Bowie that makes you call it my hometown?
Oh gosh, that's hard to, you know, because that's all I know. So and I'm sure everybody feels the same way about their hometown. But I'm a diehard Jackrabbit. I wasn't a big sports player in school, but I'm a diehard Jackrabbit. You know, I want to see. I love the school system. I serve on the school board. I want to see the schools be. So I love the school system. I love the maroon and white. I love the city. I love the city as a whole. I mean, this is there's things that you know, I want to see the town grow, but not. I honestly don't want to see it get huge. But I don't want to see it go down. But I like to see it grow a little and be a little more self-sustaining, where you have a few more things. But I don't know. I love everything about it. I love the people. I love the way I can drive down the street and they wave at me and they know who I am and I know who they are. And they know my mom and my dad and they know my sister and my wife, my kids. They know everybody. And I guess that more than anything is just everybody knows everybody. And I talked to somebody that I'm friends with at church, and they said, I'm friends with her husband, and she said, you know, I come here and like, everybody knows everybody. And her husband was like, yeah, they know everybody, you know. And she said, I didn't like it. She goes, now I'm the person going, who's that? I hadn't seen that. You know, it happens to you, and it's just that we don't all get along and everything, but it's kind of a family thing. It's almost like we're all kind of distant cousins or something. I don't know. It just, the atmosphere.
So do you find when new officers come in, whether they're from other cities, other communities, do they feel that when they come in, and do they get into that?
I think most of them do. I've actually had a few of them say, hey, I worked in this other town and they don't support you. Like, it's amazing. You know, sometimes they're amazed at the support we get. The people, we just had advanced rehab come in today and bring us chips and dip. And they're like, they didn't do that this other town we was at. You know, it's just, I don't know. I feel like we try to treat people fair. You can't always make them. Sometimes you upset them. You don't mean. But I feel like it's a give and take on both sides. So yeah, we have officers that don't live here, and some officers will say, I'm not going to live in the town where I work. And I get that. You know, that there's some truth to that. But we've had some officers that have said that, and then after they've been here a little while, next thing you know, they're moving here. So that tells me a lot. They're willing to move here after they've been here a couple. Well, we're doing something right. They feel welcome. They feel safe here. They feel appreciated here. So I think we're doing something right.
And then I think that's a good point is you know each other.
Right.
You know, you can wave, you know, you've seen them around town, you know, and I think that makes our community closer
Right.
because we do get to know each other and people support each other. And I think that's what really, I mean, I think you're right, it makes the community even stronger.
Right.
When you know people, when
Yeah.
it's the people you go to church with, you go out to eat, you see those people, you see those same people, and they know you. And I want to acknowledge you and thank you for investing in the community through the years, being police chief, making a difference, being on the school board, making a difference. Because I think it takes people to invest in the community, to want to see a difference, to
Right.
be a part, and say, what can I contribute to my community?
Right. Don't just take.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many people in the world that just give me, give me, give me.
Mhm.
What is the city of Bowie going to do for me? You know, you see people get on Facebook or whatever and complain.
Mhm.
The city didn't do this. The city's supposed to give. Engage and be a part of the community and give back and make it better.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the city's responsibility to make your life perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I take that personal. When people start picking on the city,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of it is not even anything the city can control.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some of it's the state or it's not the city, but they pick on the city, and I take that personal. Well, my
Mhm.
thing is, do something,
Mhm.
get involved. Don't just complain, don't gripe. Do something, volunteer, do whatever you can to be the best you can at your job. Don't just drain the city for what it has. Make the community better.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell like Esteban Moreno, our newest officer.
Uh-huh.
Everybody knows Esteban
Mhm.
from Spicy.
Uh-huh.
Well, every day he's new, he's excited, he's happy. Every day we have coffee and he goes out and I say, well, Esteban, what are you going to do good for the citizens of Bowie today?
Mm-hmm.
And he lights up. Well, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to fight crime. He says, "What?" But I say it to him because I want him to get his mind in that mode
Mm-hmm.
because he's brand new.
Mm-hmm.
You know, other guys, you know, you say it and they're like, but you know, they've been doing this a while. But I want him to think that way every day when he gets in his car.
Mm-hmm.
What am I going to do good for the city of Bowie today?
Mm-hmm.
What? It doesn't have to be huge.
Mhm.
It can be minor. You can make somebody smile. You could stop and help somebody across the street.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Whatever it is, just make a difference.
Mhm.
Make somebody's day better.
And I think what a difference that'd make in our community. We have a good community. What if every citizen took that on?
Right.
What difference can I make today in my town,
Right.
in my community?
Right. And
That'd
it's
be
real
huge.
easy to sit back and get soured
Mm-hmm.
and start thinking, oh, I've got this going on in my life. Everybody has things.
Mm-hmm.
And it can eat on you, and you can let it, you know, taint your mood. I have that.
Mhm.
But you have to try to think, okay, it could be so much worse.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very blessed. Let's try to make somebody else's day better.
Mm-hmm. And I think when you are having a bad day, when you serve others, it takes that away.
It really does.
It's hard to be sour and serve at the same time.
It really is. When you do something that you think is so minor
Mm-hmm.
that I don't even think about it, and somebody goes, oh, thank you so much. And I'm thinking, for what?
Mm-hmm.
And they go, oh, you made a difference. Wow, really?
Mhm.
That? You thought that was great? Yeah. Well, I can do more of that. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
sometimes you forget how one little thing can really make somebody's day.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's easy to not even notice that. And when somebody reminds you that something you did helped them, then I think, well, we need to do more of that.
Mm-hmm. Maybe I should look for more of those opportunities.
Yeah.
And that it could make a difference.
And it's easy to go through life doing this and not look at what's going on around you. You need to look at what's going on. First of all, you need to look for the dangers around you, but there's opportunities
Mm-hmm.
to do something.
Mm-hmm. And I think each citizen in our community should be an active participant
Right.
in our town. Whether it's like you said, kind words, wave, whatever it is, whatever your active participant is, instead of take. Because you can only take so much before it's drained.
That's
So
right.
we have to give back. To keep our community the way it is, we have to give back.
Right.
That's not only to the city, that's to other individuals, that's to organizations, that's just to support our community.
Right.
Because we are a small community and all we have is each other.
That's right. That's right. There's only so much to go around,
Mhm.
and everybody has to do their part. We don't have the luxury of having a lot of things that huge towns can have.
Mhm.
So we just do the best we can.
We manage our resources and.
Manage our resources, try not to be wasteful, try to do a good job, try to be happy.
Mhm.
That's all you can do.
And then makes a happy community.
That's
And
right.
when people move here, they feel that same way. The
Right.
hope is that they can feel that. 'Cause
Right.
I think that can be felt in the city.
Right. You know, I've had people move here from other states,
Mhm.
and they'll call and say, "Hey, I locked my keys in my car." Now, this is a minor thing. Lock my keys in my car. I don't know what to do. And dispatch says, "Well, we'll send an officer over there." What? And I do that.
Mhm.
When the guys are busy, I'll go on calls.
Mhm.
So I go. I do a lot of vehicle unlocks. I'll go there and they'll say, what do you owe you?" Well, nothing.
Mhm.
What do you mean? This is unheard of. We wouldn't do this in California where I'm like,
Uh-huh.
this is normal. They're you know, they're happy and they're excited and it makes an impression because
Mhm.
we offer a little bit more relationship here.
Mhm.
So,
And that's just being a good neighbor.
right. That's how we were all raised.
Yes.
Be a good neighbor.
Uh-huh.
So,
Because even with the uniforms, still a neighbor.
really,
Still living somewhere next door. And
right.
so, yeah. So thank you, Guy, for taking a little time to
Yeah.
visit with me and talk about the city and expressing your appreciation and your passion for the city. Because and I think you're in the right place to make a difference.
Thank you.
And you are giving back to our community through our school, through our citizens, through our kiddos, everything. Makes a big difference. So, and thank you to all the officers that are under and then them, and because that is from a top down. They just don't act like that way because they want to. It's an example that's given to them, which I want to commend you on because I think that is true leadership when you lead by example. And that's the kind of community I want to live in, and I know that's the kind of community everybody else wants to live in. So we appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you do, too.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Guy, for joining me today. And again, as citizens, we just need to take an active role in our community. And if you see something, say something.
Right.
If you see it again, say it again.
Say it again.
Keep
Don't
saying
give
it
up.
again.
Keep saying it.
Because there's policies and procedures have to be followed.
That's right.
But we all make our community safer. So thank you for that. And thank you for each of you for stopping by and taking a little visit with us today. And we're looking forward to seeing you around my hometown.